With Dunkin' Go-Tos, you can get a great deal on two of your favorites, like 2 egg and cheese wraps for $2, 2 bagels with cream cheese spread for $4, and 2 bacon, egg, and cheese croissants for $5. In my opinion, it's a deal that's pretty tough to beat. That's just if you want my go-to cents. If you don't want my go-to cents, it's go too late. Dunkin' Go-Tos. A great deal for $2, $4, or $5. America runs on Dunkin'. Participation may vary. Limited time offer. Exclusions apply.
TV party tonight! TV party tonight! TV party tonight! TV party tonight! We're gonna have a TV party tonight! Alright! We're gonna have a TV party, alright! Tonight! We've got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews. Everybody's gonna hang out here tonight! Alright! We'll pass out on the couch! Alright! Tonight! We got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews. Don't talk about anything else. We don't wanna know. We're dedicated to our favorite shows.
And tonight, our favorite show is All Elite Wrestling Fyter Fest. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And joining with me on this here TV party tonight is the one and only Triple CB, Chris Bailey. Chris Bailey, how do you do?
I prefer the new term, CB3. Thank you very much.
Oh, look at that.
How about that? I'm doing well, my friend, and I will make one comment to start things out, is that Vince McMahon is resting easy after this show.
Yeah, we'll get into that. There was actually some big news that broke over the weekend, so I want to get your opinion and our guest's opinion on that before we jump into Fyter Fest. Speaking of our guest, I am surrounded, ladies and gentlemen. The Canadians are coming in through the woodwork. I see him to the left of me. I see him to the right of me. Chris Bailey is not alone. Tonight he brought his tag team partner, the ever-loving TMC. He'll tell you what that stands for. It's not the movie channel, though. How do you do, sir?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Listen here, TMC. Tell the folks. You decided to come on here, talk a little bit about AEW Fyter Fest. How long have you been a wrestling fan for?
Pretty much my entire life, man. Ever since I was about 5 years old, going to my great-grandparents' house.
No, as the people know, I grew up in Long Island, New York. To me, wrestling was the WWF, and that's all there ever was and ever will be. I didn't know about the NWA or Crockett or any of that stuff for a long, long time. I just followed WWF pretty exclusively as a kid. What about you? What wrestling were you introduced to growing up?
Well, I was pretty much introduced to everything. A little bit of WCW, a little bit of WWE, even a little tiny bit of bootleg DCW in there every now and then when my parents would let me.
Yeah, we used to have my friend's sister stand on the house with rabbit ears. Remember those?
We used the proverbial bent coat hanger, my friend.
Yeah.
That's how we got ECW. All right. Before we jump into AEW Fyter Fest, and what a fest it was, Vince McMahon hired Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff to executive produce, and that's a quote, everybody. That's in air quotes. Raw and SmackDown, respectively. Chris Bailey, when you saw that, what was your first reaction?
Excitement is the word of the day. I really thought it was great news. So it just goes to show that desperation always equals news. And in this case, Bischoff, which is one of my favorite GM or overall managers of a company, and of course, you don't have to say anything more about Paul Heyman. I mean, two standouts, Vince's two biggest competitors in the seat as executive directors. What that means, what actual impact or power they will have is up in the air. But you know what? It's great news. It's a reaction. I'm looking for something different on Monday and Tuesday night.
I was reading that Vince McMahon is aware the product isn't connecting with people, and there needed to be a change in leadership. And so
that's news to him. Oh my God!
Yes, he's come and joined us in the year 2019 from whatever year he was living in. But I'll ask you this, Mr. TMC. I've always said that if the guy can't relinquish some degree of creative or control over the product, it really doesn't matter who he brings in. I mean, a few months ago it was Bruce Pritchard, now it's Bischoff and Heyman. But historically, not so much with Bischoff, because Bischoff was just an on-air talent. He said multiple times on his podcast when he remembers things that he didn't have any creative control over Raw. He was just there as a talent. But this time around, how is this going to go any differently than anything how it's gone in the past with especially Heyman and Bischoff? If at the end of the day, Vince is still the one making all the final creative decisions. You know what I mean there, fella?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, but the problem I have with all that is I don't think Vince is really in tune with his audience, because he clearly don't remember Bischoff's run in TNA, because that was pretty horrible booking. Personally, that's what I believe. But as of the train and the buck stops with Vince McMahon in WWE, so how much control he's going to relinquish, I doubt he's going to relinquish any. He's going to get ideas and either spin them in some asinine way and make them silly, or he's going to use them and just claim them as his own. And it's going to, like before, when Heyman and Bischoff work for Vince, they'll get fed up and leave. That's my...
Yeah, I don't see this going well. I think with the height of Bischoff's booking creativity was Aces and Eights over in TNA. Was that about the only thing that came off reasonably well?
Which is oddly similar to NWO, of course.
Yeah, and he did the Hardy debacle thing there that was going on, the belt and all that.
Was that the one where he wrestled high against Sting?
Yeah, that was him. that was him. He also came out with that really purple, I don't know, belt that Hardy unveiled that time.
The one they got from Hot Topic. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that one.
All right,
the one that looks like some 2000s emo kid would have on them.
So have you been? I'm going to stick with you there for a second, TMC. How have you been following AEW? Did you watch All In and then Double or Nothing? And before you watch this show, is this your first experience with All Elite? And give me your overall impressions of this company so far.
No, I watched All In. The trial run, I guess you would call it. I watched that, and then I watched Double or Nothing, and I did watch Fyter Festival. And I've been following Cody's career pretty much all of WWE, and I got introduced to Kenny Omega by a friend of mine, and I watched his New Japan stuff and the Young Bucks and all those. So I've been kind of dabbling back and forth, because I kind of been getting bored with the same old thing in WWE, so I kind of broadened my horizons a little bit. I started with TNA, or Impact. That was my first adventure outside of WWE since WCW. So,
Chris and I reviewed Double or Nothing. In fact, a whole bunch of us got on the podcast and reviewed that. And way back, one of my other buddies on here, Patrick Mullen, and I reviewed All In. So AEW has been a mixed bag for me. I don't follow a tremendous amount of indie wrestling outside of the WWE. I gave up on TNA years ago. They were still on the Pop Network. I think, in fact, it was before that, the American Network or whatever the heck it was called, when they first got kicked off of Spike. I think is when I started to lose a lot of interest in the product. I've watched a little bit of New Japan, but not really. Ring of Honor, I'm kind of in and out on. I think the last time I saw a Ring of Honor show was actually WrestleMania weekend. I was at the Garden for their joint show with New Japan. and I just started to watch an episode or two of MLW Wrestling on the Fight Network. So, like, I'm trying to branch out of WWE, but there's only so many hours in a day, and I podcast for 23 of them. It feels like so, right, Chris?
He is telling no lies, I can guarantee you. I honestly think he's added the 25th hour to a day to fit all his podcasts in, but that's cool.
And I'll sum it up this way, and we'll move on from here. AEW for me has been a mixed bag. I like that it exists. I want it to do well. I just feel like a lot of times they're telling a joke that I'm not in on. Especially when it comes to the Elite, I found this with All In, where they were doing the bit with the sparklers, which I know was a rip on WWE and their over-the-top pyro. It feels a little too inside at times. It feels like they're preaching to a very niche audience, and it's just like, I just wanted some alternative wrestling. I wanted some good wrestling. I don't want Spot Fest. More on that later. And I don't need it to be too insider. I think there's too much of that outside of the WWE. I feel like, again, and I'm specifically referring to the Ring of Honor New Japan show, that audience was so inside and so particular. I was like, oh God, there's a world outside of wrestling, folks. I swears it. So, on the other hand, I think the two reviews we did before this, we kind of landed on, look, some of the wrestling is really good. And, certainly they've got a lot of talent there. And the rest of it's, Orange Cassidy and shit like that, which, drives me up the wall. So, I'm hoping that with a few more shows, this one included, that AEW sort of finds that middle road in making a show that attracts the casual viewers that, that came in during the Attitude Era. Obviously, those people, I'm not talking about those exact people because, that was 20 years ago. But more along the lines of, people who might be casual wrestling fans today, who aren't in on the joke and aren't going to get all the insider stuff that AEW tends to drift towards. What do you think about that, TMC?
I think AEW is going to have the problem with getting casual fans because, like you said, it seems like it's a inside joke to everybody. And if you didn't follow Cody when he left WWE, you're not going to be in on that joke. You're not going to be in on what the Elite are doing. I think the biggest problem they're going to have is you have maybe 4 or 5 really good wrestlers, and then you have a bunch of, I hate to say no-name indies, but that's essentially what they are. But you got to establish your talent, which is where I think they're having a little bit of a problem, because watching the main or the pre-show to the show and watching the main card, it was like night and day in from what I watched.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so let's get into it. Let's talk about that pre-show. Ooh, boy. There were 3 matches on the pre-show. First one was the Best Friends, Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta, versus 2/3 of SoCal Uncensored, Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian. I miss Frankie and his long hair when he really looked like, what's-his-face from Desperado, Antonio Banderas.
Back in the serotonin days.
Yeah. And Private Party. It's the first time I've ever seen these guys, Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn. Go to you first, Chris Bailey. I actually didn't think this was a terrible match. The last time we saw the Best Friends, I had a lot of complaints about that match. It went too long. It was too much of a joke for me. But I thought that especially the one guy, Mark, I think it's Mark Quinn with the weird haircut and Private Party. I thought he did a lot of really cool stuff. The Best Friends are a little too jokey for me, a little too silly. But I thought overall, the 6 guys in this match put on a very entertaining match, and it was a good kickoff to a kind of a 50-50 show. What do you think?
I think it started out of the gate. So So this was a little bit better than what else we would see on the pre-show. Maybe this should have been probably the anchor leading into the main show, to be quite honest with you. But like you said, a lot of solid action going on there. I am not a fan of the Best Friends gimmick. I do like Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta. The Best Friends gimmick belongs on the independent scene. It belongs in an armory. As for Private Party, I gotta say, I have seen these guys before, but this is my first real exposure to them, and I thought they were really, really good, to be quite honest with you. So, there were some stakes here. The winner had a chance to, an opportunity for a bye in the tournament. So, I mean, this is the only match on the card or the pre-show that actually had a point. So there were some stakes at hand. The right team won. They had some great action. I mean, we had some jumping ranas. We had a strong zero. There's all kinds of combinations. There was, just all kinds of stuff. Kazarian actually he looked possessed. It was the first time I've seen him in a long time since TNA where he's really, really, putting his moves back together. One complaint about this match, though, was the ending when they had the Dark Order on the screen. Oh, boy, that just did not work. Just did not work for me. It looked, to say indie-rific, I can't even say it, but, Anyway, overall, this was the best match on the pre-show. There's still lots of complaints in there. I mean, some of the action is a little too flip-de-dingle and googly-woogly for me, but overall, there was something at stake. I appreciated it. I got through it. I made it to the next match, so it was a win-win, especially on this pre-show.
In defense of the spot fest type wrestling, I don't know if today's even like hardcore wrestling audience could. I was actually talking to a friend of mine about this at a kid's birthday party today. Gone are the days of George Hackenschmidt and Bruno Sammartino, when men were men and the sheep were afraid. It's just not there anymore. That good wrestling is 106 super kicks, more on that later, and a lot of flippity doos, and it's high paced, very athletic, very gymnastic. It's the kind of stuff that gives Jim Cornette fits. And while I would love to see a return to even a Chris Benoit versus Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 17 type of wrestling, that starts out looking like wrestling and then devolves into some violence. That's something that I think you have to recondition the audience for, and right now we're just not there in general. So I think if you were to sort of carve out to, right now, what's the standard right now of good and bad wrestling? I thought this lands more in the good column than bad. I get the flippity-doo issue. I don't love it, but I think it is reflective of what is considered by the average audience member good wrestling. What do you say, TMC?
If you're going on comparisons to good wrestling, I think the last AEW pay-per-view would be a good example. It was Cody versus Dustin. Great storytelling, served a purpose, set up further stories. It seems like AEW relies on a lot of over-the-top gimmickry. It's kind of like I said on my review, less is more sometimes, and it seems like they have to. We spent the past 15 years in World Wrestling Entertainment, and I think we kind of got to put wrestling back into it, not so much entertainment into our wonderful world of wrestling. And it seems like we're more on the entertainment side still, so we need to tone it down a little bit and have a little bit less flips and spots and a little bit more storytelling in our industry, I think.
So keep in mind, this is a company who was boasting that they were going to bring sports, the actual term sports, back to pro wrestling. So if you're going on that adage, I guarantee you they did nothing to show that here in the pre-show.
No.
So the flips and all the flip-de-dingles that they did in this particular match, I think actually watered down some of the stuff we would see later on with the Young Bucks. So when is too much enough? I think we saw it in this show. Too much flip-de-dingle. It belongs on a show like this. AEW gives something for everybody, but it's just too much, man. Like, what do you remember about this match? Honestly, if you sat back now, who can tell me outside of the finish any combination of moves that were done in this match? It's meaningless.
I actually had to pull it up earlier to just follow through on what happened. So yeah, I don't really remember what happened.
So this one didn't stay with you then. For you, this was a little too much too soon. Too many flippity-doos. Just too much of what Jim Cornette would call a gymnastics routine.
Well, my problem is, if you have a pre-show and you have this match, and then you have two pretty awful matches following it, that first match kind of just means nothing.
That's fair. You think different placement on for this match, like on the main card, maybe somewhere between the girls' triple threat and the four-way might have been better placed?
I think maybe, yeah, like at least this match had some like ramification. It actually had something to build on. One of these teams are going into a buy-in for tag team championships, and you put it on the pre-show. It's kind of like what WWE does when it's United States Championship. It kind of means nothing if you're just gonna, we'll just open the show with this, whatever.
That's a fair point. So then we went back to this thing with the librarians. They did this on Double or Nothing. So I had to look up. I didn't remember who Leva Bates was. I knew Leva Bates as Blue Pants.
Yep, Blue Pants, that's her, yep.
Who got over at NXT, which I love. I actually adore NXT. It's probably my favorite wrestling right now in modern wrestling today. You know, it gives me all of what I need and more for the most part. We reviewed their last show, and I gave it pretty good marks. I think my major complaints about that were essentially it was a lot too much of the too many false finishes, too many kicking out
knee
of
strikes,
finishers.
I believe.
Yeah,
yes, that's the knee strikes.
Yes,
yeah.
Knee Strike-a-palooza.
I educated myself and listened to your last two podcasts. So
oh, look at this guy.
Okay,
I'm doing my homework.
Outstanding, and let me go ahead and first say I'm sorry. But so yeah, I had to go back and remember who and wiki who Leva Bates is, and she was like I said, she was Blue Pants. I have no idea what a Peter Avalon is. Apparently, he's also a librarian, and this is a classic example of what's wrong with AEW, in my opinion. AEW needs a producer who isn't in love with AEW, who's just going to be neutral and know when to fucking edit. Holy cow!
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I don't know what an Ally is. She seems like a pretty girl. I don't know. I don't know. Back in NXT, Leva Bates could wrestle. I'm not sure what happened here. This was a car crash, and it was 8 minutes and 50 seconds. It was probably about 3 minutes too long. Maybe even 8 minutes and 50 seconds too long. Might have could have been should have struck from the damn card.
I think you needed an Awesome Khan come out and squash both of them.
Yeah, that would have made better sense. But this thing, you can like I'm okay with it being on the pre-show because it was so bad. But again, this is just it was one of those where again I'm sitting there. And I'm watching this, and I'm like, come on, guys. Not all of us here are such, like, hardcore indie marks that we know all of what's going on here or are even interested. So, like, I very much had let's move on with it sort of blasting in my head. You know what I mean, Chris Bailey?
I hear you, brother. So, interesting that, we're looking at this match the way we're looking at it, a total disaster. But, when it comes to Ally comes from TNA or Impact Wrestling. Basically, AEW can't even use her gimmick, which is basically the dumb blonde. In Impact, they did everything with her from demon possession to hardcore warrior to dumb blonde. So, I mean, here she comes down with a stripped-down character. She has no personality or anything because they're not allowed to use her gimmick, so she's just Ally. And she's taken on the librarian. And their gimmick is what? Shh. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
I mean,
after about an hour and a half of that, it got a little old.
It was really long. It was tone deaf. Like you said, Mark. Edit for fuck's sake, edit. But this is another example of a match. Do you remember anything that happened in it outside of someone literally throwing the book at them, which is pretty
that's pretty much
representative.
That's pretty much the only thing that's memorable about that entire match.
Now, I'm actually going to defend something here. So.
Okay.
One of the things that I do say about it is that the librarians are a gimmick. You know what? I remembered that these people were actually on the show. So you know what? I'll give that the only conceivable positive that I can see out of anything to do with this match.
So did Leva Bates sleep with someone's husband or something? What did she do to lose this match? I don't understand. They pushed her in one of the opening segments of Double or Nothing. They pushed her again here. I didn't know who Allie was, so without any prior knowledge, I just thought they were... So years ago, I went to go see an NXT taping, and Billy Kay and what's the other one's name in the Iconics?
Peyton
Royce.
I honestly thought they were the same person for a while. It was before they were all gimmicked up as the Iconics. When they were first showing up in NXT tapings, one came out with a flower gimmick, and the other one was also Australian, and I remember thinking...
The other Australian?
Yeah. And I remember thinking to myself, I can't tell these two apart. I don't understand what's happening. They just seem like... I mean, it was NXT. They could be finding themselves. It's fine. That's what it's there for. But I got that feeling with Allie, too, when she walked out. Like, I don't know who you are or what you're doing. You're just some chick in tights, and you have a very pretty smile. Why isn't Leva Bates, why isn't the librarian who they keep pushing and they are spending, 19 hours with, beating you? And instead, like, again, she literally got the blue pants beaten off of her. And I'm like, did she fucking offend somebody backstage? What happened here? Someone tell me.
I think the problem is where she came from Impact, she has somewhat of a name to her. And Leva Bates is pretty much an unknown, except for Blue Pants, and that's pretty much what anybody remembers her as. So you're taking a pretty much established star like Allie without her gimmick, and you're putting her in a spot where she's got to put over other people. But you would think you would have holy crap, I can't even get a name right now. You would think you would have her go over rather than Allie, but
that's like giving Barry Horowitz the Goldberg entrance. Come on, remember Barry Horowitz, or am I dating myself here?
You might be dating yourself a little bit.
Oh, no. Barry Horowitz, I'm giving myself a self-backslap right here as we speak.
Okay, somebody remembers. So Barry...
Hey, man.
How about the Brooklyn Brawler? You know that one?
I know the Brooklyn Brawler, yeah.
So, except for the little bit that when they established Lombardo as the Brooklyn Brawler... he was a jobber, and he got a jobber entrance. Another good one, when they had that pack of guys that, that Jim Cornette had running. Yeah,
Job Squad, you had, who was it? Was it Bob Holly, Al Snow, Gilbert?
Yeah,
there's another...
Scorpio.
Yeah, Scorpio. Yeah, Scorpio.
Like
not Scorpio Scott.
if you're gonna bring somebody in as like enhancement talent, don't give them a skit. Like, just send them out there.
Well, WWE with the new generation were famous for that. So they basically said that we wanted to do away with some squash matches, but we're going to make our jobbers have some personality. So they basically created a roster of jobbers. Remember Radford? Do you remember Bob Sparkplug Holly? All these guys were designed to come in and just fill a spot and basically be enhancement talent, if that makes sense.
Yes, I remember. I remember the short form art project that was TL Hopper.
Oh yes,
nice.
Clean that bowl, TL. Clean it.
Right. Here's the thing: they weren't giving him like DX long, bits to do. They ran a couple of promos of him cleaning a shitty toilet, and they moved on with their lives. And god damn it, that's all I want out of this librarian chick. Either she wins more matches, or stop giving her bits. I'll give you guys the final word on this. We can move on.
Yeah, I think you said it all. Shh.
Yeah. See, every time I see the librarians, I always think there's like someone better that could play the role. Like I put in my review, I said like the male character of the librarian is like a Damien Sandow. Like why couldn't you get Damien Sandow to do this role. It would have been 10 times better.
Oh, listen, that literally would get this gimmick over. If anything that Sandow touches, he can make work.
That there, to me, would have made this 10 times better. But you get two pretty much green superstars who do this role, and you're kind of like, I don't know. If you're going to invest this much time into these two characters, at least have one of them be someone that someone's going to know.
But God bless Excalibur, he sold this one like a WrestleMania main event.
Speaking of that, I am glad, unbelievably glad, it was three of them, but predominantly it was Jim Ross and Excalibur doing commentating on this event, because Double or Nothing, I think the only major problem I had with that entire event was the commentating.
Yeah, they need to lose the third. They need to just make it a two-man booth with Jim Ross and Excalibur and leave it at that.
Or Maro, what's his name? Ronaldo from NXT. His contract expires, I think, in September. Maybe have him come over.
I have a friend of mine who podcasts with me who absolutely hates Maro Ronaldo. That's funny. So Michael Nakazawa
his gimmick.
Likes to spread himself some baby oil. And I don't know what an Alex... and I don't know... Go ahead.
He's the CEO of CEO.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know what an Alex Jabali is. I didn't do my homework before this. I was just like, okay, I guess. I mean, I heard what they said. I heard what you said. He's the CEO of CEO, which I guess is a gaming company of some sort.
Yeah, it's a gaming company. They do like a gaming festival.
Has Alex Jabali ever wrestled before?
Negative.
Okay.
Can I just say that Alex Jabali is of no relation to Chris Bailey?
Sure, he's not.
Clear. Thank you.
Sure, he's not.
So, someone want to fill me in on the gag here, because I didn't get it. I didn't understand why low rent Shane McMahon was fighting Oily Tajiri.
From my understanding, that match is because Jabali beat Nakazawa in some form of a video game. That's how that entire match started.
You know, it would have been cool had they showed the video of that.
Yeah, at least it would have gave some context to the match. The only thing that would have remotely gave any context to that was when they beat Nakazawa with a joystick.
So think about what this match is, guys. We had I was trying to fix myself a little snack here during this one, and I turn around and there's someone trying to be drowned in a kiddie pool. There's someone being hit with an inflatable flamingo. I mean, yep. I did not know what I was looking at here. All I know that Alex Jabali does not belong in a wrestling ring ever again.
Christ almighty. The 90s called Al Snow wants his gimmick match back.
Well, that's the thing. That's what I think I said in my review. I was like, this is like textbook crap WWE booking.
Yeah.
No, this took it to the next level. This incorporated a man thong.
I agree. Okay. Well, it's like the worst version of a Mandible Claw ever.
They just needed all they needed was a ball pit. That was what this was missing, and it would have been, and this really would have been, you know, the hardcore title from the Attitude Era.
No way, they needed a swimming pool full of like mud or pudding in a brown panties match.
Yeah,
they were backdropping each other into Legos, guys. Like, shots. So
yeah, the only context of this match was Nakazawa lost some form of a gaming tournament to Jabali, and this is why this match happened.
So why was this not on the main card though? Like,
Mark, I want to put this one in context just before you begin.
Sure.
So you're Vince McMahon. You're worried about your competition. You turn on the pre-show for this pay-per-view, and this is the match you see. You go to bed a sound sleeper, sir.
First off, Vince McMahon is not turning on AEW ever.
Okay, well. So the whole thing with Vince McMahon is apparently he doesn't like watch TV. According to Jim Cornette, he has like 2 or 3 things that he pays attention to, and then everything else is people bringing him stuff like, "Hey Vince, you should be aware that this thing exists. Have you heard of MTV?" You know, that sort of thing.
He doesn't even watch NXT. Sure.
Yeah, it's like, what's that shit Paul does in Florida? Go ahead. You were going to say something. You were going to say something, sir?
Yeah, I was just gonna say Vince doesn't even watch his own product in the NXT, so I don't understand. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even imagine AEW is on his radar.
Right. So
except for if the stockholders are kind of like, problem.
So if anybody brought him, there's no way he watched this whole show, and if someone brought him the whole show, he wouldn't get through it. But they would bring him a match or two, and the only two matches they're bringing him are the Elite versus the Lucha Brothers and Laredo Kid, or Moxley versus Joey Janela, just to say, so here's why Dean Ambrose left. This is what he wants to do. And Vince would have been just confused. Wait, what? But we'll get there. So, I don't want to spend too much more time on this, but I feel like if you're going to do this, then do it. One, show us the reason they're having this match in the first place. This was my complaint about Double or Nothing. You have to educate the audience. I don't watch Being the Elite. I certainly didn't watch whatever the fuck thing they did to set this up. So you got to show it to me. Or I'm going to tell you right now, I was already, and you can hear my voice tonight, like I've been sick all weekend. I was battling like a flu or something Saturday night. And I took Sudafed. I barely remember this match. So, and it certainly, whether or not I was sick or not, it did not keep my interest at all. This is again one of those jokey things where it's like, this will be fun for our audience. Yeah, your audience is like 5 people though. You're trying to expand outward. Unless you want to be like a niche indie product, this is not the way to win casual people. This was not the way to get my wife to watch. It's always the example I go back to. Like, my wife is like the ultimate casual fan. She likes to watch wrestling with me, but she's not going out of her way to watch a lot of indie-rific stuff. So yeah, this was not a general audience appeal type thing. There's nothing else. We'll move on to Chima versus Christopher Daniels. It was fine. I don't have a whole lot to say about this. What about you, Chris?
Exactly what you said. I mean, really, what is the purpose of this match? I mean, I know that they're trying to elevate Chima. He's coming up. He has a match. Who's he fighting next? Is it Kenny Omega?
Omega, yeah.
Yeah, he's fighting Kenny Omega coming up on their next show. So it was pretty clear to me who was going to win this match. But you talk about a paint by numbers, just going through the motions type of match. This didn't really do anything to either make me upset or make me enjoy it. It was there. I think that's the only way to really say it. And I think if you're trying to push someone, especially a Japanese talent, I think you really got to showcase their abilities in the ring, and I don't think it hit the mark on this one. I mean, we got a few like running Liger bombs and angel wings and different things like that from these guys, but overall, man, this was just about as basic and as plain as you could get.
What'd you think, sir?
I pretty much agree. It's pretty much paint by numbers, and I guess it serves its purpose. You have Christopher Daniels putting talent over. That's pretty much the gist of this match. And you have Chima's his own indie promotion that he's trying to promote too. So if you're going to have any one of them win, it would be him.
This probably should have been on the pre-show. I think I might have swapped this one for Nakazawa and Jabali, or the Best Friends match. I don't know. This just seemed like a blah nothing match for me. The triple threat involving the 2 women, Riho, Yuka Sakazaki, and Nyla Rose.
Did you say 2 women, Mark?
Hey. We discussed this yesterday.
I'm going to be good. I will be okay. I will be good.
I'm not going to lie, man. I love this match. This was probably my favorite match of the night, believe it or not. I thought the 3 of them told a really fun, really cool story. I had sort of visions of, and this isn't a comment on Nyla Rose so much as it is just the story they told, the psychology of the match. I was getting visions of like Andre the Giant in like handicap matches, that sort of thing. And I love the fact that because the 2 Japanese women are so slight in build, and and you have Nyla Rose, who is a hefty gal. They kept doing a lot of spots where she was, putting them together, like the double camel clutch, and just doing a lot of show of strength moves. Again, very Andre the Giant kind of psychology. Like I don't know if that's if someone just gave her a tape of Andre or some of the other ones doing handicap matches and said, "Here, just do a lot of this shit." But I thought this was very well done. I thought this was a big improvement over the 4-way from Double or Nothing.
Absolutely.
I thought this made Nyla Rose. I thought this did a better job of making Nyla Rose look like a threat. Not entirely sure why they didn't give her the win here, but the other two gals, Riho and Yuka Sakazaki, I thought did a lot of really cool stuff in this match. Again, I thought the psychology was sound, made sense to me, and this was probably, like I said, the match I enjoyed the most, strictly from a in-ring psychology standpoint. What do you say, Chris?
Yeah, so you know what? This match gets a lot of what can I say? So basically, it was a good portion of this match was a slop fest. There was a lot of moves that were botched. There was a lot of stuff that was, a lot of light within the moves and all that stuff. And you know what? I didn't care. I love the spectacle. I love Nyla Rose beating down these two poor Japanese ladies. First thing about just the look of the match, I mean, the size difference. Nyla Rose is, in real life, not a huge lady in comparison when you compare her to like someone like Awesome Kong. However, when you got Riho and Yuka, I mean, she is a monster compared to these two. I mean, Riho and Yuka look like they are from like I don't know, an anime we shouldn't be watching or something. You know what I mean? Seeing the freak show that it was, I mean, her just tossing these two girls around and the inventive spots and, all these hope spots where she's destroying these girls and they're kicking out left and right. It was a spectacle. I forgave them completely for all the botch moves. I think with a little bit more work and polish, Nyla Rose is going to be a megastar. And you know what? Like you, Mark, I really, really enjoyed this match, man. It was one of the most entertaining matches on the show. Was it perfect? Not even close, but it was a fun slop fest.
Her wiki says she's the first openly transgender woman to sign with a major American professional wrestling promotion. Certainly transgender, especially in sports / sports entertainment, is something, at least in America, I don't know about you progressive folks in Canada, but we Protestant Puritans here in America tend to struggle with this sort of thing. We're still wrestling with it, trying to figure it out. I kind of wish they'd do more with it, and I don't mean gimmickry. I mean, like, let's do some interviews with this woman. Let's get to know her a bit. Let's have her talk about that. Let's have her educate people. I think that would be a very transgender positive, forward positive thinking. That this, that could really help define and identify this company. Now, some people, there might be a counter argument to that, but for me, it's, you have an opportunity here. It doesn't necessarily always have to be about that, but they've done nothing, and I think they should do something. What do you think, Chris? TMC?
Well, the transgender thing kind of hits close to home with me. One of my closest friends is transgendered, so to see a company embrace something like that is actually a pretty positive thing, because I was actually talking to him a few days ago about it, and because AEW shared an article saying that she was the first transgendered to sign to an actual major promotion, and we were discussing about it, and it's a pretty positive thing. He said to me, it's a step in the right direction, and yeah, I agree. They should probably not exploit the whole transgender thing, but maybe do a promo, or maybe do like a life of Nyla Rose and her journey to professional wrestling, maybe just to give some insight.
I guarantee you WWE would be all over this. You know what I mean? This would be a network special. This would be, a highlight video package. They would use that and sell that like crazy. So I think it's a positive as well. And I think it's a missed opportunity here from AEW just to simply skip over the fact that, we have a transgendered person in the ring.
They'd be falling all over themselves having to sit down with Renee Young, doing an hour-long interview broken up into 3 segments.
Fair enough. I don't want to see it.
What'd you think of the match, though?
The match, I thought it was good. Thought it was sort of point. The only problem I have with it is I don't think the two Japanese wrestlers are actually officially signed with AEW. So you have them go over on your actual AEW superstar.
Yeah, they made no. Yeah, the booking on a lot of this show didn't make a tremendous amount of sense to me. I said before, I didn't really understand why Leva Bates lost her match. I didn't understand why Nyla Rose. This seemed to be made for Nyla Rose to win and shine, and they gave it to, one of the Japanese gals, and it was like not even the one with the interesting pants. Like they gave it to the other one in the ballerina outfit. I don't like, so. Yeah, I don't get it, but I guess we will see if this means anything or not.
Let's call them growing pains.
Yeah. The next one, of course, made sense. They're pushing Adam Page as their guy. And he defeated Jimmy Havoc, who apparently lost his job playing bass for the Misfits. Jesus fucking Christ. Jungle Boy with the Luchasaurus, who is my new favorite wrestler, and I wish he was in this match. And a guy who needs to get paired with EC3 and call themselves the Mean Street Posse Part 2. Holy cow. MJF from my neck of the woods, from Plainview, Strong Island. Yeah, get you some, Jew boy. Holy cow. MJF. I need MJF, Matt Taven, and EC3 to form the worst heel shit stable you've seen in wrestling in quite some time. I need this. Let's get Matt Taven from Ring of Honor, MJF, and EC3 together, and have them run roughshod over the WWE. That's what I want to see.
Good call, sir.
This was fine. This was, these guys are all pretty talented. Thankfully, no one got their head stapled or anything like that. They all have good looks to them. It was a fun match, and I want to see more of Adam Page and MJF. They need to have, once Adam Page has a belt, the MJF and Adam Page need to have a long, storied, multi-match, gimmicked feud. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I think you're right. One thing about this match, MJF, I'm telling you right now, this is like the Miz done right. He's sharp, he's edgy. The guy can bump in the ring. I really do like this kid. I got to say, he out of the talent that you see that are AEW originals, and I know he's been elsewhere prior to this, but this guy has a tremendous amount of heat with only 2 shows in. His entire gimmick. He's razor sharp on that mic, man. This guy cuts up, and he went old school ECW with his slams on the mic. I gotta say, so really, really pleased with him. Hangman Page, this is the guy that they're setting up for one of the co-main events for the next upcoming pay-per-views. And you know what? He actually got lost in the shuffle on this one, man. He was the 4th guy. If I'm thinking about who stood out in this match, he's the last one. I'm telling you right now, think about the people who were in this match. We had Jungle Boy, who was bumping his ass off and who was hitting moves like crazy left and right. MJF was there, and Havoc. These guys were putting on a clinic, and Page was sort of there, which is sort of weird. I don't know what you guys thought. What do you think? Is it just me, or is Hangman Page just like an afterthought?
I'll defer to you, TMC.
Well, I believe me and you had this conversation yesterday, Chris, about my feelings about Hangman Page. I feel, you might give him a run with the title, but I feel like he's like one of those guys. He's going to be like a Mr. Perfect in this company. He's going to be like an Intercontinental Champion, and that's probably be the height of his career.
But do you honestly think that this guy is main event?
No,
right now as we speak.
I don't think he's main event. I think maybe if they book him properly, if he has some good matches against Jericho and maybe Moxley and even Cody, he could possibly make his character a little bit more interesting and a little bit less plain. But as of right now, I just feel he's a good wrestler and he's a good talent, but I think he's more like mid-card. So I was telling you, I think yesterday, that if they had an Intercontinental Championship or a United States Championship, I think he would better suit that role than being the leader of this entire company.
Yeah, he may call himself Hangman Page, but I don't really get. He's just a guy, and He has, I think, some good looks to him. And he's certainly a good wrestler, but there's not much else there.
He's in his 40s too, isn't he? He's like 42 or 43 or something.
Is he really? Wow.
I think so. I'll have to check, but I'm pretty sure he's up there in age.
Hey.
What? You're old, man.
Don't go making fun of the 40-year-old man babies, please.
You're old, man. I can't help that.
You know what? It's funny. Adam Page was one of the guys that stood out to me during All In, and I said at the time, I was like, this guy should sign with the WWE. Now, I get why I get why a lot of people right now don't want to sign with the WWE. They're like, well, sure, I could get paid and buy my mom a house, but I'll want to kill myself by the end of the year. And I'm like, I get it. And so here he stays. I just think Adam Page needs to find something else to really separate him and elevate him from the rest of the, if he's going to get that role, right? If they're going to put him, if they're going to say, you are the guy, you are the flag bearer for AEW, then he needs to find a little something more to spice up his act. Because right now, you're right. I think you hit the nail on the head there, TMC. I think he's, the champion mid-card worker. He's the Shawn Michaels of the early 90s. He's the, icy Bret Hart. He's the Mr. Perfect. He's the Rick Rude in the WWE. He's that guy who's like your best mid-card guy, but he doesn't quite have it to put him, to sell tickets at the top of the card. And I think potentially he could be. He just hasn't, I don't know what he needs to do to get him to pull in that casual crowd, because right now I don't think there's a lot of interest there.
He was a great enforcer type character in the Bullet Club, so the whole faction thing pretty well masked his weaknesses. But he's on full display here now as a singles. So it's interesting to see how plain Jane this guy actually comes across. But the talent is there. I think the hype machine needs to get behind him quickly.
Yeah, Arn Anderson was never going to be Ric Flair. And if he doesn't want to be Arn Anderson, he better find his inner Flair soon. Speaking of inner Flair, go ahead.
I have to correct myself. It was actually Jimmy Havoc who's the older one out of that match. He's actually 36. Page is 27. Thanks to Wikipedia.
So this next one, and I thought this was hilarious because I actually just watched the episode of The Wrestlers that Darby Allin was on. This poor bastard. Cody with his wife, Brandy Rhodes, versus Darby Allin in a time limit draw. And let's just cut right to it. We have spent a lot of time talking about these matches. No matter what happened with this match, and it's such a shame, was just outshined, and I don't know if outshine's the right word, but what's his face? The Ty Dillinger, Sean Spears came in, wrapped a gimmicked quote-unquote chair over Cody's head, and next thing you know, Cody had a hole in his head, and he was lying in a pool of blood. And
on the wrong side, might I add.
Yeah, on the wrong side. And everyone, like, I was telling my wife about this. I'm like, did he fucking gig himself with a railroad spike to make that happen? Jesus Christ!
What, 10 staples in his head or something? But yeah, he bladed himself on the wrong side of the head where the chair hit him. So, kind of gives away the work, right?
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, because they showed the replay a bunch of times, and here's the thing, and we talked about this with Double or Nothing. There's some production stuff that AEW just needs to figure out. Someone used the term growing pains earlier. Hey, dummies. If you're going to do something like that, don't keep showing it over and over and over again, to the point where me, who's in a Sudafed haze, even saw that, hey, wait a minute. When he bladed. He had to have bladed. Because I don't know if anyone else has ever had a puncture wound, but those things bleed pretty instantaneously. And he was on that canvas for a good minute before there was any bleeding going on.
I think Dustin and Cody need to go see their doctor. I think they have a blood disorder or something. They bleed a lot. Oh crap, boy.
Listen, there is a reason why Cody Rhodes dyed his hair blonde. It's an old Dusty Rhodes trick. So
it makes it look worse. Yeah,
it absolutely does. So you can get like a thimble of juice from that cut, and it looks like you're bleeding profusely, Ric Flair style.
I don't know, man. I've seen Dustin Rhodes' head, so
Yeah.
That's not a little blading. That's a whole cheese grater.
Yeah.
That's a cheese grater across your forehead.
Yeah, it looks like New Jack taking care of that boy back in the day.
I don't know if someone's got like one of those like bullet food processors over there, but does Cody just fucking throw aspirin and beer into that thing and make himself a cocktail?
Has to
to get that flow of blood. But yeah, what the shame of it all is that Cody and Darby Allin had a fairly interesting match, but then this whole shit with the chair happens, and that's all anyone talks about. You know,
I gave it match of the night. Well, it was a tie for me.
Yeah, I thought it was a good match, and it's a shame they ruined it with which was clearly a gimmick. You know, I was talking to my wife about this. I said, you know, when Spears hit him with the chair and he went down, and then the locker room cleared out, I'm like, oh, for Christ's sake! You send the EMTs out. You don't send out MJ fucking F.
They're best friends, man.
Who gives a shit? If you're trying this. So you guys remember this when the episode of Raw? It was literally the entire episode where the New Age Outlaws pushed fucking poor Mick Foley and Terry Funk off the stage in a dumpster and spent the entire time like we've got updates from the reason why that all worked very well is because they made it look believable until the very end where they shit all over it with fucking Mankind and Terry Funk running down the ramp with IVs in their arm and shit. And like, oh, damn it, you got me this time. Yeah, sons of bitches.
Yeah, I keep seeing the reference to the Royal Rumble match between The Rock and Mankind with the 500 chair shots. I was like, it's not even remotely close to the same. It's just it's a lot of hype and I understand the purpose of it because the 15-year history between Cody and Shawn, but it could have been delivered a little bit better, I think. So
you say there's a 15-year history between the two of these guys.
FCW, yeah.
Would have been nice to know that as an audience member because I didn't.
Like, yeah, back in FCW, they were buddies. So,
see, I think this match was booked all wrong. I think. And again, this is where somebody who's not passionate about AEW needs to kind of step in and be the adult in the room and say, no, stupid. You don't start off with a time limit draw and then somebody else is going to draw all the attention from it. Have Cody be in a winning position with Darby Allin, like when one of the spots when he was in the body bag, and he goes to do a crossroads, to have the ref take a bump or whatever. And then have Shawn whack him in the back with the chair, not over the head, and then have Darby Allin win that way. And it's, damn it, Spears, you cost Cody the match.
Why even have the chair, though? Why didn't you just have him come out and do his finisher, quote-unquote finisher, and then have him just... It would serve the same purpose. You didn't really need the chair.
Well, there's a good reason he didn't come in and do his finish because Ty Dillinger, Shawn Spears, does not have a finisher, so it would be basically him lying on his back.
Isn't it called a tiebreaker, that neck breaker thingy that he does?
He's a jobber, is what I'm trying to say. He spent more time on his back than finishing anybody.
Yeah.
This is like Paul Roma showing up for the Four Horsemen. Nobody cares. This is Shawn Spears. They didn't even allude to that he was formerly Ty Dillinger. He didn't have the same gimmick. He wasn't throwing up the 10 just for the sake of doing it.
He did it at Double or Nothing.
He could have been anybody. Let's be honest here.
But they did the 10 and flipped the bird afterwards.
Okay, fair enough. I missed that. The other thing was they did an unprotected chair shot, which they've been talking about for years. How big of a disaster this is. Cody didn't put his hands up. It connected. The internet went crazy. Twitter went abuzz. Wade Keller, blew his load in his pants. All this stuff. It was
Tony Khan's press conference.
Yeah, there you go. So, it was a big deal, but guess what? It was a big deal because they're trying to do stuff different, radically different, and we'll see more of that in the main event here. So they're going for shock value. So they brought Shawn Spears, so they had their what's he doing here moment, which is, which is what they're going for, and I'm sure we'll see a lot more of that on their main show in October, but
here's the problem. They have two of those back-to-back what's you doing here moments. You had Moxley at Double or Nothing. Now you have Sean Spear, who was introduced at Double or Nothing.
I was saying, he was in the Battle Royal, wasn't he?
Yeah, it'd be a little bit more interesting if it had to be some other person being introduced, but he's here, so...
Here's my problem. But unless next month they're booking Cody versus that chair, this all got lost. Oh, come on, guys, that was funny. No, not you, Alexa.
At least something thought it was funny.
God damn it. But that's the thing, though. They booked that all wrong, and
they could have given some backstory about the history between Cody and Sean Dillinger.
But that's what you have Jim Ross for. See. Again, it was too much focus on the fact that Cody had a hole in his head and not enough on Sean hitting him with the chair.
I was going to say, wasn't there some jokes made about MRIs and CT scans and all that during commentating?
That was it. That was all the comment. I had no idea, and that's why I kind of like to do these reviews, because you're getting kind of the casual, even though I'm a lifetime wrestling fan, and I'm paying more attention to it than the casual viewer would now. You're getting more of a casual view from my point of view, because, again, I don't know the backstories on a lot of these guys. I'm kind of going into all of this cold purposefully. I don't want to know that much.
The two of them go back to FCW about 15 years ago, because Cody got called up main roster, and Ty kind of just sat in developmental for, 12 years or something, Chris?
Where he belongs.
much hate for Mr. Sean Spears.
So just to wrap this up, we can move this on. Poor Darby Allin got. I don't think the ending to this match did anybody any favors. Poor Darby Allin got lost in the mix. I don't know if they're going to continue to use him or not. If this was like the old Rob Van Dam one-shot deal, but this poor guy who has this 20-minute match with Cody. First of all, to Cody Rhodes, dear sir. Not every match has to be Flair Steamboat, okay? Calm the fuck down. So you can do a 10 to 15-minute match here, every once in a while. Jesus Christ. So there's that. Darby Allin, I feel like, got lost in the mix. This did nothing for him, because then he got promptly forgotten about. This didn't really do anything for Cody, because now he's the sort of the poster boy for everything that's wrong in wrestling, right? This was unnecessary. You just had blood on your last show.
Well, he's essentially Triple H now. He is the CEO, president guy that keeps going over in his own matches.
Right. And again, it's like too much of the same thing gets redundant and boring. I don't need to see a bloodbath at every show. If you do that, you're going to lose me. You're going to lose a lot of people who blood is a special thing when it happens. It shouldn't. Jesus Christ, the UFC is real and it doesn't always have blood.
Yeah. Apparently, Tony Khan in his interview said this is only pay-per-view things. Blood is only going to be a pay-per-view thing. During live TV, it's not going to happen.
It needs to not happen on the next show. And then it didn't.
This is going to happen on the next show. You got Cody and Dustin taking on the Young Bucks? Yeah, the Young Bucks.
Yeah. And then of course, and then it didn't really do anything for Sean Spears, because now all everyone is focusing on is the chair shot, not him.
Yeah.
So
I say you're going to have Sean versus Cody at probably All Out if I was a betting person.
And that's fine, but it's about the journey, not the destination. And I feel like
you'll have blood. It's going to be a non-sanctioned match between. It's going to be a
bloody brick road.
It's going to be a blood.
All right, so I mean, Chris, I'll give you the last word on this. Do you hear what I'm saying, though? Like they could have gotten to the same point they got to a whole lot better than the way they did it, which I think kind of sums up my opinion of AEW. It's like you guys have some good ideas, your execution is ass at times.
Yeah, so another problem with this match, it puts AEW on display as well for why they are going to have trouble competing with WWE. So take a look at Darby Allin. I mean, size difference was visually striking. Cody Rhodes is not a huge former WWE guy, and he looked like Goliath compared to Darby Allin in this match. I mean, the size difference was ridiculous. But, I think the idea behind this match was pretty solid, because I think they wanted to, say that this young kid could hang with a veteran like Cody Rhodes. You know what I mean? So idea-wise, the concept was great. The execution and the other stuff that followed completely swallowed it and spit it out. I'll tell you one thing. So myself and TMC here were talking a little bit during the show, and I pointed out that Justin Roberts was calling the times for all the matches. So I could pretty well telegraph that at least one of these matches were going to end in a time limit draw. But overall, I did enjoy this match. I do agree that the chair shot at the end and stupid Sean Spears, Paul Roma, really did nothing for me there at the end.
So my son is 5 years old, and he's really into video games, like super into them. We got him a TV when he turned 4 for his room and an Amazon Fire Stick, and he discovered Let's Plays, and it changed his life. Okay. It connected with him in ways I'll never really understand. So everything is about video games now. If I buy him a comic book, it has to be like Plants vs. Zombies or Sonic the Hedgehog or something. He's just super into everything video games, and I bring that up because of the next match, to where the Young Bucks, I don't really get it. I'm kind of from the Jim Cornette school of shouldn't you be in school, you two little people. I don't have a problem with Kenny Omega, nor do I have Jim Cornette's fucking obsession with bringing up, I guess, Kenny Omega beat up a doll of some sort or kicked the kid in the face or whatever. Like, okay, silly shit. But, you can forgive him his past transgressions, Cornette. Calm the fuck down. But I don't get the whole attraction to the Young Bucks. That is an ongoing inside wrestling joke that is just lost on me. But when I saw them come out, and this is where I'm going with this, when I saw them come out in the Street Fighter gear, and then Kenny Omega came out as Akuma, I'm like, this isn't for me. This is for, granted, my son's not quite there yet, but this is for the young folk. And I've never felt so old in my life, by the way. But I've definitely felt like this is for the young wrestling fans that that are into this sort of thing, and that's the disconnect for me. And so I just wanted to put that out there. Like, I don't think I'm ever gonna love the Young Bucks, but I don't think they're for me, and that's fine. I can live with that. As to the match, I thought this was good. I'm getting. And I say that with a star, with an asterisk. I think when the Young Bucks are playing to their audience, I very much think like this is Journey doing their set of songs. If you've ever seen Journey live, it's they play the hits. Def Leppard, they're playing Pour Some Sugar on Me. They just come out there, they do the shit people who pay tickets to see them want to see them do. They do 100 super kicks, a lot of flippity-doos. It's very athletic. It's very over the top. It makes no psychological sense. It absolutely undercuts the illusion that wrestling is supposed to be as Jim Cornette would say, an actual fight. It's none of that. But it very much is, I think, what I talked about at the beginning of the show, what the current hardcore wrestling fan wants to see. And on that scale, I thought these 6 guys did an excellent job of that. What do you think, Chris?
Yep, I totally agree. When it comes to the Street Fighter thing, one thing I did want to notice, speaking of a knock against WWE, so did anyone notice the fan, run up and just sort of get involved there and, they sort of knock him out? Do you know what that was?
It's Batista.
Yes. So it's a callback to a fan coming in and doing the machine gun in front of Batista during one of his backstage promos. So they actually just did a little tease to that. But again, that went over a lot of people's heads, and they're like, oh, why is this fan running up? But anyway, that's the reason why. Moving on to the Street Fighter thing, I think it's probably a disconnect for us older folks, but it's a connection for younger folks. So I think that's the entry drug. Look how cool the Elite are. They enjoy the same video games I enjoy. Look, Kenny Omega is Akuma. You know what I mean? I thought it was cool, and I think they were, they're going for a younger audience. They're trying to draw the young crowd, which I think is lost on WWE. As for the match itself, flippity-doo, flippity-dingle, I don't remember a damn thing that happened in the entire match, except for the ending, because they actually focused on Kenny Omega. They let him have his little, they showcased him for once. They actually let him do his moves, and he got the win. So overall, you know what? They built up the right people. They built Cena in the first match. They built Omega in this one. Flippy dingles all over the place. Good match, but served a purpose.
TMC, you're up.
I think the thing is, you guys keep forgetting what venue this is. This is Fyter Festival, which is a gaming convention. So the Street Fighter thing was definitely, they got their audience there for that, right? So, and I do remember the match because I remember Canadian Destroyer, Spanish Fly, Canadian Destroyer, and I remember listening to your other podcast and how the Canadian Destroyer should be one of those moves that it destroys.
Yes.
Right, I remember that from your last podcast, and I agree. It should only be used if you're literally going to do what the move says, destroy something, because it's an insane move just to do when it sporadically throughout an entire match.
Nice. Thank you for listening, by the way.
Yeah, no sweat.
Thank you very much.
I do my homework.
All right. If there's nothing else, then we'll move on to the main event. So if you heard our last two podcasts, this has been an ongoing joke where no matter what happens, we have two running gags. One is if it's a boxing match, whoever's fighting, Canelo wins by decision, usually 250-0.
Oh yeah, because he dies. He lands on his head.
Yeah,
I was actually before I joined this podcast, I was actually watching this short documentary on Joey Janela. It's a Joey Janela. Yeah, I was watching a short documentary, and I watched him jump off a building into a pan of a truck. I was like,
God.
yeah, yeah. He jumps off, hit this guy, and him get into this weird snowplow, and he jumps off the roof of this 40-foot building into the pan of a F-150 with fluorescent light bulbs strung across it and two pieces of plywood there, and I was like, what, why?
So,
why not, sir? Why not?
So our boxing joke is always Canelo, the boxer, always wins by decision, and our wrestling joke is no matter who's wrestling, Joey Janela lands on his head.
Yeah, essentially. I think he does it about a dozen times in this match.
I was listening to the Jon Moxley interview on Jericho and how he talked about what a disappointment it was wrestling Brock Lesnar because Brock Lesnar, get this, has no passion for the industry and didn't want to do anything. Shock of all shocks. And I'm a huge Brock Lesnar fan, but I mean, come on.
Is Brock Lesnar officially Canadian now? he lives in Saskatchewan.
Canada, TMC.
He lives in Saskatchewan all the time. So,
but and Jon Moxley was like, I was prepared to die in that match. I wanted to do so much. Fast forward, he finally. This must have been his dream. I'm not going to completely shit all over this. I just think they made such a huge deal out of this is a non-sanctioned match.
It wasn't an official match of AEW, apparently.
Yeah, they made a big honking deal out of that, and I was like, if you're gonna do that, then literally turn the lights off. Make it a different presentation than what we saw, and maybe that's hard to do if you're trying to, put this out on TV. But I don't know. I just feel like if you tell me this isn't a sanctioned match, then this thing should have been in a parking lot somewhere, not in the middle of a ring with with entrance music and shit. You have to commit to the gimmick.
It should have been a brawl out in the parking lot somewhere. I agree. If it was unsanctioned,
right? I mean, they don't do that anywhere else. This is an unsanctioned boxing match, and so fucking.
I think that's just called a bar fight, isn't it?
Exactly. They don't have Deontay Wilder just deck somebody out in the fucking at the bar or anything. It's super silly to me. But the actual match itself, I mean, I have been highly critical of Joey Janela. I think, he should hit the gym every once in a while. I thought he looked better than he did at All In. I was really making fun of him, and he looked really soft.
What was your comment about his gear, Chris? Chris made a comment about his wrestling gear.
What? What did I say? I said multiple things about Joey Janela. His gear, man. He looks like an '80s jobber, man. This guy just I can't understand, why they would send this guy out in the main event of the company show. This is a signature event, and
it wasn't a main event. It was an unsanctioned match, not licensed by AEW.
Well, maybe you're right. Maybe okay. Well, this is an unsanctioned ring gear he was wearing, and it sucked.
He should try pants that fit.
My God, I was gonna say, didn't they hire two seamstress to help with this whole thing?
I mean,
who is it that had the baggy pants on? There were a couple of pay-per-views ago. Who was that?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I remember because we talked about that. Like, come on, why don't your pants fit right?
Was that on a WWE show or AEW? Which one was that? Who had the saggy pants?
Could have been either one of them.
Yeah, I don't remember anymore. No, generally speaking, the guys in WWE, their shit's right. So I'm going to guess it was AEW, but yeah.
When in doubt, blame AEW.
Oh, I know what it was. I recall. It was Velveteen Dream from the last.
Oh, that's
NXT
right.
show.
Oh, that's right.
Pants on.
Yeah, his seamstress was doing cocaine or some shit that day because his crotch was all down around his knees. And then Joey Janela is kind of the same thing. Like, he had a very square crotch looking. Like, I'm like his pants don't look right, but who cares? I'm too tired. I just want this to end already. Look.
I'm guessing if you're going to drive thumbtacks into your wrestling gear, you throw on your worst gear you got.
I guess. If this is what these guys want to do, God bless them. Obviously the crowd was into it, I think. If Jon Moxley and Joey Janela want to dive headfirst on the thumbtacks and, through tables and stuff like that. Look, this could have been a lot worse. There were no weed whackers involved.
Fluorescent light bulbs.
Yeah, there were no fluorescent lights. Right. This didn't get to gross.
This wasn't the New Jack match.
They weren't wrestling over sharks, I heard
with freaking laser beams.
Well, I'm thinking of like the old like Japanese death matches. I haven't seen these, but I've heard like there was some guys that like wrestled over a piranha tank. It didn't get to that level. Obviously, it was definitely a few shades below that. But for a good old fashioned 2019 American wrestling crowd, they did the quote unquote hardcore stuff that people find entertaining. And I was more like, and the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, this is what you're complaining about when you say WWE was too constricting. I wasn't allowed to do my art. Made enough.
It's too PG. Yeah.
I've made enough money. I want to go do art now. This is art to you. Okay, John. Whatever. If you're happy, I'm happy for you. God bless. And that is literally my entire review of that match. Well, if this is what entertains people and makes the two competitors happy, God bless them. Different strokes for different folks. Right, Chris Bailey?
Brother, let me tell you, there's a spot in this match that I've never seen it before. It's where Moxley removes Joey Janela's boots, then he removes his socks, and he proceeds to drive him feet first into the tacks. To which Joey Janela gets up and falls flat back after he cannot stand on his feet into the tacks again. I agree with you. So this guy left a $1 million job at the WWE to roll around with an independent wrestler in tacks on a free show on YouTube or Fight TV or wherever the blue hell you happened to watch this. But I did enjoy the match, so you know what? Unsanctioned or sanctioned, whatever you want to call it. Death matches were a thing that I really, really enjoyed back in the tape trading days, back in the early to mid 90s and all that stuff. I could do with this being the last one I've seen for a little while. So this is not something you can repeat. Jon Moxley, hopefully you got that out of your system, my friend, because, this is not something you want to be known for in 2019. Let's put it that way.
Go ahead, TMC.
Yeah, I agree. I think less is more when it comes to these styles of matches, so maybe a sprinkle here and there. It'll give that old ECW fan the yes, this is what I want, but to do it like every single match is going to be... It's going to be tiring. How many times are you going to watch Joey Janela get put on thumbtacks or bust himself open or Jimmy Havoc staple a piece of paper to someone's head? There's only so much of that you can tolerate. And back in the ECW days, you had gimmick wrestling, you had Duke the Dumpster Drosy and all those guys, and then you had ECW, which is like completely out to lunch compared to what you were actually watching. So back then, it was fresh. Now everybody and their mom does a death match. David Arquette does death matches.
I remember back in the early ECW days, Axel versus his brother Ian Rotten in a Taipei death match. Can I just go ahead and to say I feel like we've evolved past that. Let's not go backwards. Let's not be doing Taipei death matches.
Exactly.
I agree.
The only thing that I would have liked to see if there's a second one that comes close is if Alex Jabali is in one and gets thrown in those tacks. That guy needs to go into tacks.
No, man, they need to do an open piranha pit for him.
Extra piranha for Mr. Jabali.
They need to do like a Bash at the Beach style and like dump someone into the pond or whatever is there.
I would pay money to see Alex Jabali drowned. I'm just saying.
Hey, man, he tried to drown Nakazawa.
Maybe that's inappropriate. I don't know.
In the immortal words of the mermaids from Peter Pan, we only tried to drown her a little.
Yeah.
Indeed.
A little bit.
Only a little. All right. Overall, I'll give this about a B minus. There's a lot of things I might have done differently. I think some of the wrestling was solid. Some of it was lacking. I think it's a good point that you mentioned that this was coinciding with a gaming convention. So some of this now makes a little bit more sense than it did before. But overall, AEW, you are dangerously approaching levels of the people driving Priuses that think their farts don't smell, or they love to smell their own farts. if you remember that South Park, yeah, you're dangerously approaching hipster levels here, and hipsters are not where you're going to find a lot of minds where for money. That's. I want this to succeed. I don't want this to go like the TNA route where you're around forever, but who gives a fuck? I want this I want the WWE to be legitimately frightened of your success and have to then make changes, and let's have some real competition. I don't need a repeat of the Monday Night Wars. That was a special place in time. But I want you to succeed, and you're not going to trying to be the art asshole project of the wrestling world, which is kind of the direction you're headed in. So that's my last thoughts. Chris and then TMC, I'll give your final words on the pay-per-view.
Oh, I'm okay. I'm unmuted. Perfect. I was having a great I was having a great conversation with myself on my shitty Wi-Fi at that point. Anyway, I agree with you, man. This is a B- show. I think Vince McMahon and his company looking at this are just laughing their asses off. I mean, this was not the show you wanted to put out if you're trying to, draw fans and to make yourself a main event style company. I don't think this was what TNT wanted to see either, to be quite honest with you. So if you have producers or executives from TNT, they have to be looking at this show going, what in the hell do we have gotten ourselves into here? This is a Hot Topic T-shirt company with a wrestling program built in, and it has a lot of ways to improve on this next show. So they have to be very cognizant of this third show because they cannot afford a repeat of this particular one. Yeah, there was some good stuff sprinkled in. The pre-show was a complete horrific disaster, and again, the last 3 matches on the show were good. So, it seems that they want to go with the indie-rific something for everybody at the beginning of the show and have their big guns right at the end, and they repeated the same formula, except nowhere close to the last show they just put off. So they've got a lot to prove to me. Until then, it's Piracy City.
Your last words there, TMC.
Yeah, I'll have to give it a B. I enjoyed it, I think, a little bit more than I should have. And I think the reason why I enjoyed it so much is because I think it's been the past 15 years, we've only had WWE. And WWE has such an amazing roster of talent. And you don't get to see that. And AEW is a little bit fresh. And I guess it's just where it's so new, it's exciting. And I'm going to chalk up to this this show being a little bit growing pains. They're still trying to work out some details and find everybody's spot there. But if you have something like WWE, you have such an amazing roster of talent, and to me, even this show is better than what WWE has put on for the past, I don't know, 10 months. Like you have Baron Corbin main eventing like major pay-per-views with Seth Rollins, and that to me doesn't seem appropriate, and it doesn't seem like you have so many better wrestlers in that company that you could be pushing right now, and that's what you go with.
Gotta say, what the hell happened to Baron Corbin? Remember when he was killing people in NXT? And
yes.
Then somewhere between NXT and SmackDown, he got a job being a host for the Ruby Tuesdays, and that seems to be where he is now.
Yeah, I think what happened was that people seen him without a shirt, and they kind of got scared.
Like, whoa.
Whoa. You could get lost in his belly button.
Get him a Roman Reigns vest or some shit.
Get lost in his belly button. That's one for the highlight reel. That needs to go right at the beginning of the show, Mark, right there.
You can get lost in his belly button. I think when he took, and now he's in some like vest and tight pants, and it's okay.
That's a heat magnet. That's similar to the Jericho scarf. It just drives people crazy.
I don't think he needed that to drive anybody crazy. I think retiring Kurt Angle would do that. I think being in every single main event spot would do that.
Hey, your ratings are sinking. People are yelling boring when this guy comes out, and Vince is like, "I'm doubling down. Fuck these people."
More of him. And then you have a Charlotte Flair ripoff teaming up with him, and I'm like, what? Like this is the complete opposite.
Don't you talk bad about the woman my wife called a stripper, Lacey Evans.
I'm sorry.
I love Lacey. She's so traditional. It's unconditional.
Mark, what's the proper name for Charlotte Flair that we use on this show? What is it?
Tits McGee.
There you go. Thank you.
Tits McGee. See, I checked out on Lacey Evans at the Royal Rumble when she went up against Natalya. I was like, yep, nope. I'm done. I am not happening. Sorry. If you can't even do a kip up, you should go back to NXT.
You don't understand. She's so traditional. It's unconditional. Don't you get it?
I can't do a kip up. Can I go back to NXT?
There may be a problem with Vince calling up people from NXT a little too soon. I'm just gonna say.
I think Chris, if you went to NXT, you wouldn't leave NXT until you learn how to do a kip up.
Fair game. At least my pants would fit.
And if you did a kip up, it'd at least be damn entertaining.
Throw this guy off the air, Mark.
It'd be entertaining as hell to see you try to do a kip up.
Team Canada has broken up here right away.
Hey man, the alliance is over.
And so is this podcast. Let's move on here. So there it is. There's our review of Fyter Fest. Your ground level, everyday man review of Fyter Fest. Take that for what it's worth. Tomorrow, right here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network, we have the source material for Jessica Jones Volume 2 from Brian Michael Bendis, The Secrets of Maria Hill. You will see a woman stand up and pee. It's fantastic. And then on Tuesday, myself and Robert Winfrey will have a TV party tonight for Jessica Jones Season 3, the last of the red-hot Netflix Marvel shows. And then I'd like to show you my Glory Hammer, but you're going to have to stand far back. It's Glory Hammer on the Metal Hammer of Doom. Legends from Beyond the Galactic Vortex, I believe is what the kids are calling it. And that's it. It's a short week. We have Independence Day, and I have a lot of chemotherapy coming up, so we're just going to call it. The following week, we're going to be looking at The Ultimate Spider-Man, again by Brian Michael Bendis, because we love Brian Michael Bendis on this network.
Yes, we do.
Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 4. I actually read all of the issues leading up to that, so we'll talk about that, the first 4 volumes of that, but the one we're focusing on is Volume 4, which is called Legacy. And then we'll be doing a Damn You Hollywood, if she could, for Spider-Man Far From Home. We've got the delayed, we're finally catching up to it, Amon Amoth Berserker on the Metal Hammer of Doom. And if I'm feeling up to it and Sean is actually available and able to record on time, we've got an on-trial for Spider-Man 3. The following week, there'll be a source material for the 2016 Volume 1 Doom Patrol. I will not be on Damn You Hollywood. I will be out, but Jason Teasley makes his glorious return to the show along with Alexis Hana and Robert Winfrey to review a movie I'm sad I'm going to end up missing, but it looks fantastic. It's hurricanes and alligators in Florida, 3 of my favorite things. It's called Crawl. It's the greatest thing ever.
Yes.
We got the Texas Hippie Coalition, their new album on the Metal Hammer of Doom. And then finally, we've got a TV party for the DC Universe Doom Patrol. We've got Cloak and Dagger on source material on July 22nd. Shades of Grey, the 2018 first 6 issues of that series. We've got The Lion King on Damn You Hollywood. Sabaton, The Great War. And then finally, we've got a TV party for Cloak and Dagger Season 2. And we wrap up July with DC vs. Hanna-Barbera 3, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, L7 Scatter the Rats, and an on-trial for the big hit from Quentin Tarantino from years gone by, Pulp Fiction. Chris Bailey, tell him where to be.
You can find me on the Twitter at Charlton_hero. As well, if you're interested in some retro musings, you can find me over on my blog at the Superhero Satellite, where you can find all kinds of information on wrestling, TV, movies, and comics. And of course, I'm always sitting here in the proverbial internet ether, waiting for Mr. Mark Radulich to give me a shake. That's it for me.
All right, TMC, where can they find your stuff? What do you want to plug?
You can find me on Twitter at IRCoffin. And on Facebook, Thomas Barton Coffin, TMC.
All right. I want to thank my guest, Chris Bailey, and Mr. TMC for joining me to talk about what's left of my voice, for joining me to talk about AEW Fyter Fest. It's been a fun show. And with that, be well, be safe, and where the hell? There we go. Be well, be safe, and behave.
Here it comes again. Lunch. Will it be the same old, same old? Or are you ready to take a vacation from the ordinary with the new Jamaican Jerk Turkey Sub at Firehouse Subs? Freshly sliced smoked turkey breast, craveably sweet mustard sauce, and a hint of Caribbean seasoning. Just $5.55 for a medium. Save time. Order the new Jamaican Jerk Turkey Sub on the Firehouse Subs app. Firehouse Subs. Enjoy more subs. Save more lives. Participating locations. Limited time only, plus tax. Prices may vary for delivery.
Dunkin' has a whole new line of handcrafted signature lattes. Blueberry Crisp, Caramel Craze, and Cocoa Mocha. They're so delicious, you'll realize that you've been spending a whole latte time drinking the wrong coffee. So even though you've been together for years, it's time to say goodbye to your ex, Coffee Place. Because you've got a latte love for Dunkin's signature lattes. Sipping is believing with Dunkin's new handcrafted signature lattes, like Blueberry Crisp, Caramel Craze, or Cocoa Mocha. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary. Limited time offer.